My name is Delia Ostrander. I am 36 years old. I cut keys at a hardware store in Brainerd, Minnesota. I have worked there 11 years. The store is called Hovd and Sons. There are no sons anymore. There is a man named Roy who owns it and a woman named Patris who does the register on weekends and me. My counter is at the back, always has been. You walk past the paint and past the bins of screws and you find me under a board with about 400 blanks hanging on it. Brass ones, silver ones, the ugly plastic head kind that people buy for their kids. Most people have never watched a key get cut. It is worth describing. You take the customer key and you set it in the left vise. You take the blank and you set it in the right vise. The blanks have to match. That is most of the job right there. If the blank is wrong, nothing else matters. Then you close both clamps and you check that the shoulders line up. Then you pull the carriage. The machine is loud, very loud. It is a flat electric noise that goes up when the wheel bites metal. It takes about 9 seconds. Little curls of brass come off and land on the tray and they are warm if you touch them. Then you take the new key and you run it over the deburring wheel. That part matters more than people think. A key that has not been deburred will work 3 times and then it will chew the inside of a lock. Nobody sees that damage. It happens where you cannot look. Then I hand it over, done. Then it is over. $4 for a house key, $6 for a car key that has no chip in it. I say all this because all of that matters because of what my days are. I fix small things for strangers 8 hours at a stretch. Somebody locks themselves out. Somebody is moving. Somebody's father died and they have a ring of 40 keys and they do not know what any of them open. I cut copies. I stay calm. I have never once raised my voice at that counter. So later in this, I say something terrible out loud. Before that happens, understand something. I was not always a person who said things. I was the kind who did not. I grew up 8 miles outside town on a road called Fox Lake Trail. My mother is Sharon, she is 62. My father is Dwayne, he is 65. He drove a gravel truck for 31 years. Now he goes out to the shop and moves things from one shelf to another shelf. I have a sister named Bree, she is 38, and I have a brother named Wes who is 30 and lives in Duluth. I am going to talk about Bree a lot. I need you to meet her the way I knew her, not the way you are going to know her by the end. If I skip ahead now, you will hate her from the first minute and you will be right for the wrong reason. So we do this slowly. Bree was the loud one. That is not a bad word in our house. My mother is loud. My mother fills a kitchen. Bree filled a kitchen the same way. She talked with her hands and she interrupted and she cried at commercials. I was the other kind, the quiet one. My report cards all said the same thing every year. Delia is a pleasure to have in class. Delia could participate more. When we were kids, my grandmother kept a tin of buttons on the top of her sewing machine. It was a Danish cookie tin, blue with the white lettering worn off one side. There must have been 600 buttons in it, maybe more. Some were off coats that stopped existing before I was born. There was one that was a tiny brass anchor. There were 4 that were shaped like strawberries. When she died, I was 9 and Bree was 11. My mother was cleaning out the house and she found us on the floor of the sewing room with the tin between us. She let us split it. We did it by hand. Bree dumped the whole thing on the carpet and we went one at a time, back and forth like a draft. I remember she let me take the anchor first. She could have taken it. She was faster than me at everything and she took it in every other part of our lives. But she pushed it across the carpet at me with one finger and she said, "Take that one, you like the boat ones." I put my half in a coffee can, a Folgers can, red lid. She put her half back in the tin. The buttons matter later. That tin comes back at the end of this, and by then you will already know what it is. Bree got married at 22 to a man named Todd who sold farm equipment. It lasted 4 years, not one more. She moved home for 8 months after that and she slept in the room she grew up in and she was 30 pounds lighter when she left it. I was the one who drove her to the lawyer, twice. Both times we went to the Culvers on Highway 210 after. Both times she ordered a butter burger and did not eat it. I ate half of mine, then we sat in that lot with the engine running. She said one thing in that car I have thought about every week since. She said, "I am not sad about Todd." Then she said the rest of it. "I am sad that I needed somebody to tell me I was worth keeping around." I was 26, I said nothing useful. I did not have a good answer. I said something about how she would be fine. She said, "I know." After that she got a job at a clinic in Baxter doing intake. She was good at that job, very good, better than good. People came in scared and she made them not scared inside of about 90 seconds. She had a thing she did where she asked them about their drive over, not about their symptoms, about the drive, whether the construction on 371 had cleared up, whether they had come from the north. I met Cal in 2015. He was 30 and I was 25 and he came into the store for a hasp and a padlock for his mother's shed. He came back 4 days later, different hasp, he had measured wrong. Then he came back for a key copy, then he came back for nothing at all. I could make him a monster right here. That is the temptation and I am skipping it. He was a good 4 years, he was funny in a dry way, you had to sit beside him a while to catch it. He drove a Green Ranger with a tailgate that only opened if you hit it in one particular spot. We got married in 2018 at the Legion Hall. Bree did the food. She would not let anybody help her and she was up until 2 in the morning the night before doing 11 pans of something and she cried when I came out in the dress. She was my maid of honor, of course she was, there was no other name. Her speech was 4 minutes long. She told the story about the buttons. She got the details wrong. She said our grandmother gave us the tin, which is not what happened, my mother did. But she got the anchor part right. She said her sister always went for the boat ones and everybody laughed and I did not know why it made me want to cry. We got a house on 5th Avenue Northeast, 940 square feet, a porch that was falling off the front of it and a garage we could not park in. For the first 2 years I was happy in a way I did not examine. I think that is the only kind there is. Then we started trying. I am going to slow down here. I know some of you are waiting for the part you already saw in the title. It is coming. But if I run past this you will not understand anything that happens later, so let me take my time here. We started trying in the spring of 2020. Everybody was home that spring. It felt like a reasonable thing to do with a year like that. Nothing happened for 11 months, not one thing. I did what you do, all of it. I bought the sticks. I bought the other sticks, the cheap ones off the internet that come 50 in a bag and look like something you would use to test a pool. I took my temperature at 6 in the morning before I moved. That is the rule, before you move at all, before you sit up, before you talk. I kept it on a paper calendar, not on my phone. A paper one, the kind the insurance office mails out every December, and I folded it into quarters and it lived in my purse. I want to describe that calendar because it is going to come back. It was 11 by 17 inches folded down to about 4 by 5. It was soft at the folds from being opened and closed. There were little numbers in the corners of the squares in pencil. My temperature, 97.4, 97.6, 98.1. There were dots for other things. There was a system. Nobody but me could have read it. After 11 months, I went to my doctor and my doctor sent me to a clinic in St. Cloud. St. Cloud is 110 minutes from my house, 220 miles round trip. I did that drive 41 times over 2.5 years. I know that number because it was on the calendar too. Cal came to the first 4, then he did not. I am going to be careful here. He came to the first 4 and he was fine at all 4 of them. He held my coat. He asked one question at the third one that I thought was a smart question. Then he had a thing at work, then he had another thing, then it stopped being a conversation. Bree came to the 5th one. She called me the night before. She said, "What time are we leaving?" I asked her what she meant by we. She said, "Do not make it weird, what time?" We left at 5:40 in the morning. It was February. The car was cold the whole way. The heater in my Corolla only worked on the highest setting. The highest setting was too loud to talk over, so we ran it on low, we froze, and we talked. She brought coffee in a thermos and 2 of those gas station breakfast sandwiches wrapped in foil, and she put mine on the dash to keep it warm, and it fell off twice. Here is what she did in the waiting room, and I did not notice it for months. She asked me about the drive. Not about the appointment, not about what they were going to say. She asked whether the construction on 371 had cleared up. She asked whether I thought the Corolla would make it another winter. She asked what Roy was doing about the sidewalk in front of the store because a woman had slipped on it in December. That was her clinic voice. She was doing to me what she did to strangers all day. I clocked it about 8 months later, and when I did, I sat down in my kitchen and put my hands over my face. She came to 19 of them. 19. 19 out of 41. I counted after. She took the shifts off. She used vacation days on my appointments. She never once told me she had done that. I found out because a woman she worked with mentioned it at a cookout like it was nothing. I got 2 diagnoses. I will not say what they were, not because I am ashamed of them. Because I have noticed that the second you name it, people stop listening to you and start looking it up, and then they are somewhere else. What I will tell you is what it costs. The first round was $9,600 and insurance took $1,100 of that. We did that in October of 2021. It did not work. Nothing did. The second round we waited a year for because of money. That one was $8,200. That one did not work either. For the third one I sold my car, the Corolla. I got $2,200 for it. I took the bus. I got rides. For 4 months I borrowed my mother's Buick on the days I had St. Cloud. My mother offered the Buick without me asking. That belongs in this story. She did that. The third round did not work. The money was gone after that. I am aware that I am telling you about money in a story that is supposed to be about my sister. But this is the part nobody puts in. The betrayal is not the only thing that happened to me. $26,000 happened to me. 2.5 years happened to me. 41 drives happened to me. By the end of it, I weighed 118 pounds and I am 5'7". There was a day in the spring of 2023 that I think about more than any of the appointments. I was at the counter at work. A woman came in with a key to a storage unit and she wanted 4 copies. 4 is unusual. I asked her about it because I ask people about things. It is the job. She said her husband had died in January and she had 3 kids and they were going to go through the unit together but not all at once. Each of them wanted to be able to go alone. I cut her 4 keys. I deburred all 4. She paid $16. And after she left, I went into the back where the mop sink is, and I stood there for about 6 minutes because I could not go back out. It was not about her. Let me be careful there. It was that she had 3 people to give keys to. Bree called me that night. She did not know about the woman. She called about something else, about a coat she wanted to return. And I told her about the storage unit and I cried on the phone in a way I had not done in front of anybody, including Cal, and she did not say anything comforting. She did not say it would happen for me. She said that was a really bad day. It is allowed to be a really bad day. Then she stayed on the line, 40 minutes. We watched the same show in 2 different houses and she made fun of it the whole time. That is who she was in April of 2023. Hold on to that woman. She is the one the rest of this happens to. Cal stopped coming to St. Cloud after the 4th appointment. I told you that already. What I did not tell you is what he did instead, because I did not know for a long time, and when I found out, it was worse than nothing. He kept going to work. He worked at a place in Baxter that did commercial flooring. He was a scheduler. He put crews on jobs. And in the fall of 2023, he started coming home at 6:40 instead of 5:15. An hour and 25 minutes, every night. That is the entire size of it. That was the entire signal I got. I did not think anything. I am going to defend myself for 1 paragraph and then I will stop. I was doing hormone shots in my stomach with a 2-week schedule taped inside a cupboard door. I had a job. I had a mother who called every Sunday. I was not looking at the clock on the microwave and doing math. He said they had picked up 2 schools and a clinic build and the scheduling was a nightmare. That is a real thing. That happens in that industry in the fall. I believed him for 8 months. 8. The other thing that changed that fall was Bree. She had come to 19 appointments over 2 years. Between September and the end of 2023, she came to none. I could describe how that felt at the time. It did not feel like anything. You have to understand how it happens. It is never a door slamming. It is a Wednesday. It is small. Bree brought lunch to the store on Wednesdays. She had done it since about 2019. She got off at 11:30 on Wednesdays and she would come in with 2 containers and we would eat at the little table by the paint mixer where Roy keeps the color books. The first Wednesday she did not come. She texted at 10:40 and said she got scheduled. Fine, that happens. The second one she did not text until 1. She said the same thing. The third one she came, she was there 20 minutes instead of an hour. She looked at her phone twice. The fourth one she did not come and she did not text. I texted her at 2. She wrote back at 9 at night with a thumbs up on my message. A thumbs up is not a response. It is a receipt. Do you see how there is nothing there? Say I had gone to my mother in November of 2023. Say I told her something was wrong with Bree. My mother would have said she is busy. And for all the information anybody had, my mother would have been right. I did notice one thing. I noticed it and I filed it wrong. At Thanksgiving that year, Bree did not eat. She had a plate and she moved things on it. My mother asked her about it. She said, there is a stomach thing going around the clinic. I looked at her across that table and I thought, she is 36 and unhappy and she has nobody. And here I sit with a husband and a house, and I am the one everybody is being careful around. I felt sorry for her. That is the part I cannot get out of my head. In November of 2023, at a table with a paper turkey on it that my mother has put out since 1994, I looked at my sister and I felt sorry for her. The holiday was at my parents'. We drove down from Duluth with a girl he was seeing. Cal did not come. He had a thing. I said he had a thing and everybody nodded, and my father said something about how the flooring business must be booming, and we ate. Bree gave me a Yeti tumbler. I gave her a bird feeder because she had said in September that she wanted one. She had not said it in September. She said it in September of the year before. I had written it down in my phone in a note called Gift Ideas and I never dated the entries. She looked at that bird feeder. She said, "Thanks, Del." She put it back in the bag. She did not look up at me. I thought I had gotten the wrong gift. Now we get to January and February of 2024. Those 2 months are the ones I would take back. Not the confrontation, not what I said to her, those months. In January, I asked Bree to come to St. Cloud with me. It was a consult, not a procedure. I asked on a Sunday for the Wednesday. She said she could not get the shift covered. In February, I asked her again. She said the same thing. Both times I said no problem, and both times I meant it. Both times she was 11 weeks and 15 weeks pregnant. I drove myself. I had my mother's Buick. I remember the second drive very clearly. It snowed the whole way down and cleared on the way back. I stopped at a Quick Trip in Royalton and got a coffee. I sat in the lot with it. I felt something I would now call peace. I had it because I did not know anything. That is the last hour of my life that I did not know anything. March was nothing. I want to put a nothing month in here because that is how it actually goes. You do not get a March that means something. You get a March where the furnace makes a sound. You call a guy. The guy says it is the inducer motor. It is $460. You pay it. Roy sold 22 snow shovels in March, which is a lot for March, and he was very happy about it, and he told every single person who came in the store. Cal was home at 6:40. Bree texted about once a week. My mother called on Sundays. I did my shots. The 4th round was scheduled for June. Then on the 9th of April, my mother called me at the store, which she never did. She said Bree was sick. She said she had a bug and she had not been answering, and could I run over there after work with something because she was at her book thing. I said sure. I bought a can of chicken and wild rice soup at the Cobborns on Washington and a box of saltines and a ginger ale, which is what you buy. There is no thought involved. Bree lived in a fourplex on Norwood, upstairs unit on the left. I had a key to it. I cut it myself in 2021 when she moved in. I cut two, one for me and one for my mother. I deburred both of them on the wheel like I do. I knocked twice, she did not come. I let myself in. The blinds were down, the place was dark. There was a lamp on in the living room and the television was off and the apartment was very warm. She was asleep on the couch under the gray blanket, facing the cushions. She had her back to the room. I could see the top of her head in one hand. I did not wake her up. I went into the kitchen to put the soup on the counter. And there was a calendar on the counter. It was the insurance office kind, 11 by 17. It was folded into quarters and the folds were soft the way they get. There were little numbers in pencil in the corners of the squares. I did not understand it for a second. I looked at it and my brain said that is my calendar. She found my calendar and then my brain said no, that is not your handwriting. I stood there with a can of soup in my hand. I did not move. I taught her that system, on the drives, on the way to St. Cloud, on the days she used vacation time to come with me. I told her how I did it. I told her about taking it before you move, before you sit up, before you talk. She had used it. She had used my system to do the thing I could not do. I put the soup on the counter next to it. I did that. I remember putting it down carefully so the can would not make a noise. And then I turned around to leave and I saw the hooks by the door. There were 3 hooks, 3. Her apartment key was on the first one. Her car key was on the second one. On the third one was a key to a Green Ranger that only opened its tailgate if you hit it in one particular spot. I know that key. It is a Ford H75. It is a very common blank and I have cut about 200 of them in my life, and I cut that one in 2019 because he lost the spare. I have thought about what I did next about 9,000 times. There was no screaming. I did not wake her. I did not take a picture. I stood in that doorway for what I am fairly sure was under a minute, and I looked at my sister's back under the gray blanket. And I noticed that she had one hand on her stomach over the blanket, the way people do. Then I left. I locked the door behind me with my key. I sat in the Buick in that lot for 35 minutes and I did not turn it on. People ask about the noise in your head. There was not any. That is what nobody tells you. There was no noise. There was a lot of very fast arithmetic. 11 weeks in January, 15 in February. 6:40 instead of 5:15 since September. I did the math on when it started and the math said September. September was 2 weeks after the third round failed. I do not know if that is a coincidence. I have never asked. I am never going to ask. Cal got home at 6:40. I was at the kitchen table. I had not made anything. I had not turned on the light over the sink, which I always do. He came in and put his keys in the dish. He said, "Hey," then he looked at me. He stopped in the middle of the floor with his coat half off. I asked him one question. I asked how far along she was. He put his coat back on. That is what he did. He had it half off and he pulled it back up onto his shoulder. Then he sat down across from me and he told me. He told me it started in August and not September. He told me it was not supposed to be anything. He told me 4 or 5 other things. I will not repeat them. They were not true, and saying them out loud gives them a life they do not deserve. The one thing he said that was true, he said last. He said he had stopped being able to be in the house. I asked him what that meant. He said, "The house became about one thing. I could not be in a house that is about one thing." I have thought about that for 2 years. I think he meant it. I think it is also the smallest reason a person has ever given for something that size. He was out by Sunday, 4 days. He took the Ranger and 11 boxes and the good drill. I filed on the 22nd of April, a Monday. Now here is what I expected to happen with my family, and I want to lay it out, because being wrong about this is most of the story. I expected a war. I expected my mother to call me screaming. I expected my father to go over to Bree's fourplex. I expected Wheeze to say something loud on the phone. I expected the whole family to come down on one side or the other, and I expected it to be immediate and awful and loud, the way we are. That is not what happened, nothing like it. What happened is that nothing happened. My mother called on Sunday, regular time, 4:15, 9 minutes long. She asked about my week. She asked whether the furnace was holding. She said the book thing had picked a novel that everybody hated. Then at the end she said she had heard about Cal. She said she was sorry. Then she said, well, men are like that. Men were like that, that was it. I said, Mom. And she said, I do not want to get into it on the phone. The call ended there, 9 minutes. My marriage ended and my sister was carrying my husband's baby, and I got 9 minutes and a sentence about men. My father came by the house the following Saturday and he fixed the latch on the porch door, which had needed fixing for 4 years. He was there 90 minutes. He did not say her name once. When he was leaving, he squeezed my shoulder by the truck. He said, we are all just going to get through this. Then he got in and went. Wheeze called. Wheeze actually did call, and Wheeze actually did say the loud thing. He said he could not believe it, and he said Bree was out of her mind, and he said Cal was a piece of garbage. And then about 4 minutes later in the same call he said, but she is going to need people. I said what? I actually said it out loud. He said, she is going to need people, Delia. He said Cal has already told her he wants nothing to do with it. He said she is 38 and she is by herself and she is going to have a baby by herself. I asked him how he knew that. He got quiet, then he said Mom told him. So my mother had spoken to Bree? My mother had spoken to Bree enough to know what Cal had said to her about the baby, and my mother had used 4 of her 9 minutes on a book club. I am telling you this in order because the order is the point. Nobody yelled at me. Nobody asked me to forgive her, not in April, not in May, not in June. They just started leaving her out of sentences. They stopped saying her name around me. My mother would say the family, or everybody, or we. Sunday dinner became a thing that happened at a time, and I was told the time, and I was not told who else was told the time. I went twice in May. Bree was not there either time. I thought that meant they had chosen. I thought I had won something. I had not won anything. I had been given a schedule. The 4th round was supposed to be in June. I canceled it in May. You cannot do it alone, not the money and not the mornings. I called the clinic in St. Cloud. A woman named Junie took it. I had talked to her maybe 30 times over 2 years. She said she was sorry and she waived the cancellation fee. She did not have to do that. I sold the shots back to nobody. You cannot sell them back. I had $1,100 of medication in the door of my refrigerator and I threw it away on a Tuesday and I stood there and looked in the bin for a while. I want to be plain about the summer of 2024. I was fine at work. I was completely fine at work. Roy will tell you I did not miss a day. Patris will tell you I was normal. I cut about 900 keys that summer. It is not a hard number to hit. At home, I did not cook. I ate cereal at the counter standing up for about 4 months. I got the porch painted, which is a thing I did on purpose so that I would have a reason to be outside. I did not call Bree. She called me 11 times between April and August. I did not answer any of them. She left 3 voicemails. I have never listened to them. They are still on my phone. I know exactly where they are in the list. In July, my mother started doing a thing. She would call and she would ask about my week, and then she would put 1 piece of information in the call. 1, never 2. She said they are putting her on part-time in September. That was 1 week. The next one, she has got the 1 bedroom now, so that was another. The next one, her blood pressure is up, but they are watching it. She never asked for a response, not once. What took me until August was the shape of it. She was not asking me for anything. She was updating me. She was keeping me current on a person I had told her I did not want to hear about, one careful sentence at a time, and in a voice that made objecting impossible, because objecting to a single sentence sounds insane. You cannot fight one sentence a week. There is nothing to push against. If you push, you are the crazy one. I did push once at the end of July. I said, "Mom, I do not want the updates." And she said, "All right." And the next Sunday she said, "They think it is a girl." The 11th of August was a Sunday and my mother called on Wednesday instead, which should have been the tell. She said they were doing a thing for my father because he had the shoulder surgery coming up and everybody wanted to get together before he was out of commission for 6 weeks. She said 1 o'clock. She said Weeze was driving down. She said it would mean a lot to him. It would be better if I could say I knew. I did not know. I bought my father a set of grip bars for the shower. He was going to be one-armed for 6 weeks. It seemed like a good practical gift. I was pleased with myself about it. I got there at 10 to 1. There were 11 cars. I counted them later. The first thing I saw when I came around the side of the house was the tables. My mother had put the 2 folding tables end to end under the maple with a cloth over them. There were about 30 people in the yard. The second thing I saw was the balloons. They were tied to the back of a chair at the end of the tables, 3 of them, yellow and white, pale yellow and white. And there was a cake on the table with a sheet of plastic still over it, and I could read it from 20 feet away. I stood at the corner of the house with a box of shower grip bars in my hands. My father was in a lawn chair by the garage with a can in his hand, and he was talking to my Uncle Dean, and he had not seen me yet. And Bree was in the middle of it in a blue dress, sitting down, both hands on the arms of the chair. She was 34 weeks pregnant. She looked enormous and she looked exhausted. 6 women were around her. Nobody had told me. 30 people knew and nobody had told me. That is not a slip. 30 people is not a slip. 30 people is a decision that somebody made and then 30 people agreed to keep. My mother came out of the back door with a bowl in her hands, and she saw me at the corner of the house and she stopped. And she did the worst thing anybody did to me in this entire story. She did not look guilty. She looked relieved. She thought I had come. My mother came across the grass to me fast, still holding the bowl. She got close and said my name in a low voice. She said, "I wanted to tell you, there was no good way to do it." I asked her whose idea it was. She said it did not matter. I asked her again. I asked her whose idea it was to tell me it was for Dad. She said it was hers. I have to give her that. She did not put it on anybody. By then people had noticed. That is how a yard works. 2 people look and then 8 people look. The women around Bree's chair went quiet in a way that traveled outward across the whole yard in about 4 seconds. Bree stood up on her own. She should not have stood up. She was 34 weeks and she was in a lawn chair and it took her 2 tries and my aunt had to put a hand under her elbow. She came across the grass toward me. She was already crying before she got there. Everybody watched, the whole yard. My father put his can down on the arm of the lawn chair and stood up too and did not come any closer. She got about 4 feet from me and she started talking. She said she had been calling. She said she knew. She said she was not asking me for anything. Then she asked me for something. People do that. She said, "I cannot have this baby with you not in the world." And I said the thing out loud. I said it quietly. That detail matters. Everybody in that yard heard it, which means the yard was silent, which means they were all listening on purpose. I said she was dead to me in April and she was dead to me now, and she would be dead to me when that baby was 20. She said my name, just my name, nothing after it. And I said, "I hope it hurts the whole way, and I hope you remember why." 30 people heard me say that to a woman who was 34 weeks pregnant. There is no softening it for you. I have watched people tell stories like this and get to their worst line and then explain it for 4 minutes. I said it. I meant it when I said it. Some part of me still means it, and I do not think that part is going to die before I do. But one thing about that moment has never left my mouth in front of a single member of my family. I did not feel anything when I said it. I expected to. There had been a version of that sentence in my head since April, and in that version, saying it did something. It let something out. It did not let anything out. I said it, and I was standing in my parents' yard holding a box of shower grip bars, and nothing had changed at all except that now everyone had heard. I turned around and I walked to the Buick, which was my mother's Buick, which I was still driving because I sold my car for a round that did not work. I had to reverse out past 9 cars. It took a while. I want you to picture how long it takes to back out past 9 cars in a yard where 30 people have just gone quiet. My father walked down to where the gravel meets the road. He put his hand on the roof of the car. I put the window down. He said, "Del." That is all he said. He has called me Del my whole life, and he said it, and then he did not have anything after it. I said I would bring the Buick back Tuesday, and I would get a ride from Patris. He said no, he said keep it. I said I would bring it Tuesday. The messages started that night. My aunt, my Uncle Dean's wife, 2 cousins, a woman from my mother's church who I have met maybe 6 times in my life and who wrote me 4 paragraphs about grace. We called at 11 and he was crying and he said he understood. He actually said he understood, and then he said the second half of it. He said he could not be the only one on my side because then he would lose everybody too. I said that was fair. I meant it. It is fair. He is 30 and he lives 2 hours away and he did not do anything to anybody. My mother did not call for 6 days. That was the longest she had gone since I was 19. When she called, she did not mention the yard. She asked about the furnace. I brought the Buick back on Tuesday the 20th. Patris followed me over in her Equinox and waited at the end of the road. Nobody was home. My father had physical therapy at 2 and my mother took him to it because his shoulder was done by then. I put the keys through the mail slot. And then I did not leave. There was one thing of mine still in that house. I had been meaning to get it for 2 years. And this was the last day I would be able to walk onto that property without it being an event. It was in the garage. My parents' garage has a wall of steel shelving on the left that my father put up in about 1991, and every one of us has a section of it. My section is the 3rd shelf. There is a plastic tote with my high school things in it. There is a lamp. And there is a Folgers can with tape over the lid that has my half of my grandmother's buttons in it. I went in through the side door. The garage smelled the way it has smelled my entire life, which is gasoline and cardboard and the rubber of a hose. I got the coffee can down. It weighs about 2 pounds, more than you would think. You would not think buttons weigh anything. And when I turned around, I was looking at the shelf across from mine, which is the one that has nothing on it, which is the one my father calls the overflow shelf. There was a car seat on it, still boxed. It was still in the box. It was one of the ones that clicks into a base, gray and cream, and the box had a picture of a baby on it who was about 4 months old. The receipt was taped to the end of the box with a piece of clear packing tape. My mother does that. She has done that with every large item she has ever bought since I was a child, because she thinks she might return it, and she has never once returned anything. I read the receipt twice. It was from a store in St. Cloud, not Brainerd, not Baxter. St. Cloud, which is 110 minutes away, which is where I went 41 times. The date was the 29th of February, 2024, a leap day. I stood in my parents' garage with a coffee can of buttons in one hand, and I read that date about 6 times. The 29th of February. I found out on the 9th of April. 6 weeks, 41 days, 6 Sundays. My mother bought a car seat for my sister's baby 41 days before I opened a door and saw a calendar on a counter. I want to walk you through what those 41 days actually contained, because I have. On the 3rd of March, my mother called me on a Sunday and asked about the furnace. On the 10th of March, she called me and I told her the 4th round was scheduled for June and she said good. She said, "That is good, honey." On the 17th of March, she called me and I said I was worried about the money for June, and she said, "Do not think about the money right now." On the 24th of March, she came to my house with 2 loaves of banana bread. She sat in my kitchen for an hour. She asked me whether I had thought about what I would do if the 4th one did not work. I said I had not. She said, "Well, there is no rush on that." She said that in my kitchen on the 24th of March. There was a car seat on a shelf in her garage while she said it. She had driven 110 minutes each way to buy that seat. She did that so nobody in this town would see her buying it. That is the twist in this story, and it is not the one anybody expects, so let me put it plainly. My sister betrayed me in August. My mother chose in February. Bree did something to me in a bad year of her life with a man who was leaving his marriage anyway. It was the worst thing anybody has ever done to me, and I am not taking one word of that back. But my mother sat at my table and asked how I would handle failing again. She already knew there was a baby coming, she already had the seat for it, and she told me not to think about the money. Bree wrecked my marriage, my mother managed me. I put the coffee can under my arm and walked out of that garage. I did not close the side door all the way. I have wondered since whether she noticed, and whether she knew what it meant. I got in Petrus's Equinox and Petrus said, "All set," and I said, "Yep." We drove back into town. Petrus talked about her son's truck the entire way. She is a good woman and she knew something had happened in that garage, and she talked about a truck for 11 minutes so that I did not have to do anything. The baby came on the 2nd of October, a Wednesday, a girl, 7 pounds 1 ounce, born in the morning. I know that because Weez texted me the numbers and nothing else. No name, no picture, just the date and the weight, the way you would send it to somebody at work. He is 30 and he lives 2 hours away, and that text is the single most careful thing anybody in my family did that entire year. I did not answer it, I read it about 40 times. The fall went like this. Sunday calls stopped, my mother sent messages instead, short ones. She would ask about the store, I would answer in one line. That is a thing that can go on for a very long time, and it did. Thanksgiving happened without me. Nobody told me it was happening and nobody told me it was not. I worked the Friday and Roy gave me a turkey from the meat place because Roy gives everybody a turkey, and he did not say anything about why I wanted mine on the Wednesday. I ate at my counter standing up. December the same. In January my mother called, an actual call, and she asked whether I would come by if Bree was not there. And I want you to see the shape of that question because it took me 2 days to see it. She was not offering me my family back. She was offering me a slot. She was offering me a time when the house would be empty of the other one. I could come and sit in it, then leave before the real part of the day started. I said no flat, just that. She said all right. I did not go back to that house for 14 months. Here is what I did instead. And I am putting it in because I think somebody watching this is in the middle of the version of it where nothing is happening yet. I went to work, 900 keys became 1100 keys. Roy gave me the paint counter too and a raise of $2.40 an hour, and I took over ordering the blanks, which I am better at than he was. I got a dog in November from the shelter in Pequot Lakes, a shepherd mix with one ear that does not stand up. His name is Bud. He was 6 when I got him, so he is 8 now, and he is not a metaphor, he is just a dog, and he sleeps against the back of my knees. I paid off 9,000 of the 26. I did not date anybody, I still have not. I am not saying that sadly, I am saying it factually, because a lot of these stories end with somebody meeting a good man at a hardware store and mine does not. And I learned to be quick about not thinking of a person. That is a real skill and nobody talks about it. You do not stop thinking about somebody. You get fast at catching it. You get to where you can feel it starting and you can put something else in the way inside of about 2 seconds. By the spring of 2025, I could get through a whole shift. Bud helped, ordering the blanks helped, painting the porch a second color helped. None of it was healing. Let me be plain about that. It was maintenance. It was deburring. It was smoothing off the part that was going to chew the lock if I left it rough. She came into the store on the 12th of May, 2025. It was a Monday, about 20 past 3, which is the dead part of the day. Patris was off. Roy was in the back. He was on the phone with the paint rep. I heard the bell and I did not look up because I was sorting a box of blanks that had come in mixed. She came all the way to the counter before I saw her. She had lost the weight and then some. Her face was different. She had her hair up. She was wearing a clinic polo, so she was working again, so somebody was watching the baby, and I did all of that arithmetic in about half a second the way you do. She put a key on the counter, just the key, flat, and she pushed it about 2 inches toward me. She said 2 copies. I picked it up. It was a Kwikset KW1, which is the most common house key blank there is in this country. I cut probably 15 a day. I asked her if she wanted brass or the colored heads. She said brass is fine. That was the whole exchange. She did not say she was sorry. She did not say my name. She did not cry and she did not look close to it. I think she had decided before she walked in what this was going to be, and she stuck to it. That surprised me. She has never once stuck to anything like that. I turned around and I did the work. Left vice customer key, right vice blank, line up the shoulders, pull the carriage. 9 seconds, that is all it takes. The wheel goes up in pitch when it bites, same as always. I did the second one, same. Then the deburring wheel, both of them, and the brass gets warm and you can feel it through the metal. And while I was doing that, with my back to her, I could see her. The window over my workbench reflects the counter at that time of day. I have known that for 11 years. I have never once had a reason to think about it. She had put something on the counter while I was cutting. I saw it in the glass. It was the tin, the Danish cookie tin, blue with the white lettering worn off one side. I finished the second key. I ran a thumb along both edges the way I always do. I turned around and I put them on the counter next to the tin and I said, $8. She paid with a 10, I gave her 2 ones. And then she said the only other thing she said, and it was not about me. She said, I moved in March, I found it when I was packing. Then she said the rest. It has been in my back seat since then, I could not decide. She did not say what she could not decide. I know what she could not decide. Then she picked up the 2 keys and she left. She did not look back at the tin and she did not ask me to take it and she did not say anything about it. She just left it there on the counter next to where the receipts come out. I stood at that counter for a while, long enough that it got strange. Roy came out from the back, he looked at the tin, he said, huh, he did not ask. If you have gotten this far, I would like to know where you are listening from. Put the town in the comments. And if this is doing anything for you, a like helps the channel more than you would think. The tin sits on the shelf over my workbench at the store, left side. It has been there 14 months. I have not opened it, not once. I want to be accurate about why, because there is a version of this where I say something wise and I do not have anything wise. There is no feeling I am waiting on. The reason is that I know what is in it. It is her half. The only thing in it that could mean anything is the anchor. And the anchor is in my coffee can at my house. She pushed it across a carpet at me in 1998. So there is nothing in that tin that I need. I still have not opened it. Here is where everything sits now, in the spring of 2026. The divorce was final in November of 2024. Cal lives in Fargo now. He has not met the baby. He pays $280 a month and he is 4 months behind, and my mother knows the exact figure, which tells you who has been keeping track. The girl is 3 in October. I do not know her name. I have made a decision not to know it and I understand exactly how that sounds. My father had the other shoulder done last year, and I did not know until it was over. Wees calls me every other Sunday. He is the only one who does. He never mentions any of them and I never ask. 2 years of phone calls with a hole in the middle of them. My mother and I speak about 6 times a year. It is polite. She has never once said the word February to me and I have never once said it to her, and I think we are both going to die without either of us saying it. That is the piece of this I did not see coming. I thought the unforgivable thing would be the loud one. The loud one was Bree in a yard in a blue dress at 34 weeks with 30 people watching. The one I cannot get past is a receipt with tape on it. People ask me, the ones who know, whether I am going to forgive her. They always mean Bree. Nobody ever means my mother because nobody knows about the shelf. And the honest answer is that I do not think forgiveness is the machine everybody says it is. I think it either happens to you or it does not. Like weather, you can stand outside in it as long as you want and it does not speed anything up. I am 36, she is 38, our mother is 62. Something is going to happen eventually. Somebody is going to get sick. That is how these end. I know it is coming and I do not know what I am going to do when it gets here, and I will not pretend to you that I do. What I know is what I did today. I opened at 7. I sorted a box of mixed blanks. I cut 19 keys. I deburred every one. Under a shelf with a blue tin on it that I have not opened.